There's something that seems to be spreading around like wildfire all over social media and YouTube, which is called red pill female psychology. And obviously, by using the red pill as a symbol, it's basically supposed to be like the underlying hidden truth about female psychology that most people are blind to. But there's one extremely important aspect of all this that any follower of the so-called red pill movement seems to be completely missing. And it's not just some trivial thing. It's actually something so deep and fundamental to the entire question of female psychology and attraction in general that it pretty much taints the entire red pill philosophy right to the core. In order to explain exactly what this is, first of all, I want to start this off with a kind of thought experiment to try and see things from the perspective of a female. So if you imagine that you are an attractive girl and you're with your boyfriend, and let's say that he's kind of like a cool guy, but you've been together with him for a couple of years, so your relationship has gotten to the point that it's just kind of routine and everything is sort of predictable. And let's say that you're out with him at some public place, like you're sitting with him at an outdoor cafe having coffee. And as you're talking with him, at one point you notice that he's looking over your shoulder at something behind you. And then suddenly he sharply looks downwards, like he has some sort of reaction to something that he just saw. Maybe he wasn't even really consciously aware that he himself did that, but you, being an attractive female, you're much more in tune with the subtleties of body language. And so of course you notice that that happened, and you understand on an instinctive level that it was a submissive reaction that he had towards someone that he just saw. Like he made eye contact with someone and then quickly looked away. So then out of curiosity, you look back over your shoulder to see who he was looking at, and you see a very confident and cool looking guy walking by who is looking at you and your boyfriend. So when you look at him, he directs his eyes directly towards you and you make eye contact with him, and then partly out of curiosity as to why he's looking at you, and partly out of a kind of attraction and fascination with his eyes, you hold this eye contact with him for a few seconds. And then suddenly you're seized with a twinge of like fear, or not really fear, but more like excitement that you can feel viscerally throughout your body, like you have butterflies deep inside of you. And it might be difficult to truly imagine this from a female perspective. So I just want to play a short video clip that shows this same kind of thing narrated from a female perspective.
맨날 듣던 김진우 목소리가 엄청 좋은 거야. 그래서 쳐다봤지? 근데 그 자식이 날 똑바로 보고 노래를 부르고 있는 거야. 웬열? 심장이 미친 듯이 뛰더라고. 막 설레고. 괜히 창피하고 열나고 어떻게 해야 될지 모르겠더라.
So going back to our example, let's just say that as you make eye contact with this guy, you're engulfed in this kind of strong feeling for a brief moment. And then when you turn back to face your boyfriend again, he's still kind of looking down and still talking to you, but it seems that he didn't even notice what just happened between you and that guy. And then as you keep talking to him, you start to notice that he has a lack of like overall presence and energy. And you start to think that feeling that you just felt with that random guy, have you ever felt that with your boyfriend before? Maybe you have like a long time ago, but you can't even remember when that might have been. And you realize that it's possible that maybe you've never even had this kind of strong feeling with him ever before. And then later that day, you start to notice that there are certain things about his behavior that start to annoy you and repulse you. And the more that you feel this way, you can't help but kind of distance yourself from him a bit. And as you do so, he starts to react to that almost as though he is deflated. And as this kind of thing keeps happening, you start to feel that in general, whether he is consciously aware of it or not, he kind of feeds off of your validation. Like if you don't give him love and you don't have sex with him, then not only is he kind of deflated, but he starts to emotionally lash out and give you like insulting comments and treats you in a very negative way. And as time goes by, this same kind of thing gets compounded to the point that you find yourself in a position where you have a boyfriend who doesn't treat you very well, who you don't even really have strong feelings for, and you're not really in love with him. And meanwhile, when you close your eyes, you can't help but see the eyes of that guy who walked past you when you were having coffee, and you can't help but feel drawn towards those eyes and what they represent to your unconscious mind. And I'll get to the point of all this in a second, but even if you have difficulty imagining all this from a female perspective, this same kind of thing actually goes both ways. Like maybe you've even experienced this before, like if you are in a relationship with a girl that you're not that physically attracted to, not that she's ugly, but she's not like your ideal. And for example, maybe when you sleep with her, you imagine that she's someone else, and you see other cute girls, and deep down you wish that you could be with them instead. And you have just a kind of dissatisfaction with the whole relationship. This has actually happened to me before, and I felt like I was just kind of stuck in the relationship, and I was afraid to hurt her, and I liked her as a person, so I didn't want to break up with her, but I was never satisfied. This is what it's like for a girl a lot of the time in a relationship, and especially for girls, because she constantly has other options that could potentially be available to her very easily if she just allowed it to happen. So basically the point is that there's always a balance of love in any relationship where one person is attracted to and loves the other more than the other loves them. And this is not just with relationships, but with attraction in general. It's really similar to gravity, where, for example, if you think about the sun, the earth, and the moon, and just think of the earth as the female, and then the moon revolving around her is like the boyfriend in this thought experiment. So he's more attracted to her than she is to him, and the one she's really drawn to is the sun, or the guy that she made eye contact with in our example. And this brings us to the whole problem with the entire red pill female psychology, which is that no matter what exactly is being talked about, it's all looking at everything from the perspective of the moon rather than the sun. And depending on which perspective you're looking from, you're going to see something completely different and come to completely different conclusions and see completely different possibilities for yourself for what you can do. Or in other words, red pill female psychology is looking at everything from the perspective of a guy who, whether he is consciously aware of it or not, deep down feels himself to be inferior and not worthy of the girl. Something that this reminds me of is right now I'm studying French with the book Alice in Wonderland. And there's one part in the book where she shrinks down to the size of a mouse, and she meets a mouse and starts a conversation talking about her cat. So she's telling it about how great and wonderful her cat is, and this causes fear in the mouse, and the mouse is like, I never want to talk about cats, they're such cruel and disgusting animals. So this is looking at the cat from two different perspectives, from the point of view of a human versus the point of view of a mouse. And of course, from the mouse's perspective, it feels inferior to the cat, and that the cat is out to get it, so it has fear and projects a sort of evil onto the cat because of that, and speaks of it in a very shaming kind of way, like the cat is this vile creature. And just like the mouse, when it comes to red pill female psychology, it's not just that it's looking at things from an inferior perspective, but along with this perspective comes an unspoken sort of shaming attitude towards women. Like maybe they don't outright say it, but you can feel that that behind the words, it's like she is this way and she behaves in this way and it's bad and she's a bad person because she does these things. Like you can hear this in the attitude and the tone of voice that the people speak with when they talk about these things. And a lot of the time they do just blatantly say these kinds of things too. It's almost as though they feel that she should be morally obliged to be attracted to you and love you and be devoted to you and have sex with you. And the fact that she doesn't, and she behaves in a way that reflects the fact that she doesn't, means that there's something wrong with her and that she's almost like evil. You know, the entire red pill movement is tainted with this. Like you can feel it oozing out of everyone. But the real truth is that she is under no obligation to feel a certain way towards a guy. And if she doesn't feel that way, why would anyone even want her to pretend that she does or like demand it out of her? Like it's completely ridiculous. In reality, the way that a girl behaves and the way that she treats you is a reflection of yourself. She's like a mirror, and any sort of negative thoughts or opinions that anyone has about her is really just a projection coming from inside themselves. In my opinion, rather than complaining about everything, every guy should strive towards becoming stronger so that instead of looking at things from the perspective of the moon or of the mouse or of the weaker guy, you can look from the perspective of the sun or the kind of guy that girls want. And this is possible for anyone to do, and that you can be the source of energy and validation rather than trying to demand it out of others. So in conclusion, in my opinion, the essence of the entire red pill movement at the very core can all be summed up by the picture on the screen right now. This is what red pill female psychology really is. It's actually male psychology. That's where it comes from. That being said, this is all just my own personal opinion based on what I have seen of all this red pill stuff. So you can feel free to leave your own thoughts or disagreements in the comment section below. And other than that, I will talk to you in the next video.